So I wasn't gonna do a Ghostbusters video, like specifically I wasn't gonna do a video about the new Ghostbusters film. I figured like at some point if I did another video I would maybe like mention Ghostbusters and what I thought of it. But I saw it and now I have to talk about it. I have to talk about Ghostbusters. So when the trailers came out I thought it looked pretty shit. I don't like Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy. I don't really find them funny as actresses. But I went and saw it anyway. I actually saw it before I watched the original. I went to the cinema and saw the new one. And then like 2 days later maybe, I saw the original. And then 2 days after that I went to the cinema to see the new one again. So that I had an opinion of it as a film on its own and as a remake or a reboot, or I think it's a reboot. So like the most important thing that I have to say about this is just that the trailers do not do it any sort of justice. I was watching them and I was just thinking that it did not look particularly funny. It is. I actually really like Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy in this. Kristen Wiig slightly more so, I just like her character a bit better, but both of them are really interesting. Both of them are really funny. Their chemistry and like the humour between them and between the other characters as well, Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon. It's all really good, it's all really funny, and I think the reason that it didn't look particularly good in the trailer is because the jokes can't really be condensed down into like a 2 or 3 second joke like you have to for trailers. When you're doing a trailer you can't show like extended scenes. It has to be funny, it has to be snappy, but they have to cut it down to like 3 seconds a scene. And it doesn't really translate very well because the humour is more than that. It's not very easy to just compact it down into small jokes that will fit into a trailer. But when you watch the actual film, it's very funny. I laughed out loud like a lot of times during this film. I was basically constantly laughing. Well, during the funny bits anyway. Like, I wasn't laughing at the parts that were supposed to be serious. But like, most of the parts that were supposed to be funny were laugh out loud funny, for me at least. And the acting was great. Even Chris Hemsworth, he basically is the receptionist, and what they've done is they've taken this stereotype of the female receptionist who is stupid but very attractive. They've flipped it so that it's a male and they have just projected it. They have magnified it and it is incredibly funny. Like, I've heard people say that it got a bit too much after a while, a bit repetitive, a bit boring, a bit like they were smacking it over your head saying that he was stupid. Like, oh look, Chris Hemsworth's character isn't intelligent, here's another piece of evidence for that. I didn't feel annoyed by it at any point. I didn't think it like overstepped a line. I just thought it was funny, like consistently funny throughout the film. I also didn't feel like the plot slowed down or got boring at any point. Like, there's not a whole lot of things that happen right until the main climax of the film, but it never, for me, felt boring. I was never going, okay, right, get to the huge fight scene. It felt interesting and it felt like we were on a gradual work up towards the big finale. It felt interesting and it felt gripping and it was good. As a film, this was actually one of my favourites that I've seen. In general, in terms of new films that have come out this year that I've seen at the cinema, this was my favourite. And admittedly, I haven't seen that many films this year, but like, I went and saw Deadpool at the cinema. This is better than Deadpool, just for different reasons. I just prefer this objectively to Deadpool. But yeah, that's generally the review that I have of it as a film on its own, just in general, just not within the context of the original. Then I watched the original. I only watched the first film, actually. I have both of the first 2 films. I got them on DVD like months ago because I was planning on watching them before I saw the new one, but when it got to actually planning on going and seeing the new one, I decided I would watch it, and then I would watch the original, and then I would watch the new one again. So yeah, I watched my DVD of the original, and it's a good film. Overall, I didn't like it as much as I liked the new one, apart from Bill Murray. Bill Murray is just a gem in that film. He's just incredibly good and incredibly funny. His facial expressions in particular and his timing in terms of his comedy are very, very good. But none of the characters seem particularly fleshed out, and ultimately the characters in the new one I think are more padded out, they're more interesting, and definitely if there's a sequel I feel like there will be even more background to their characters, make them even more in-depth and even more interesting. When I saw the new one the first time, there was a worry that I had about Leslie Jones's character, and that was that she was the only one who wasn't a scientist, and she was the only black character. Like, oh yeah, the 3 white women are the scientists and the black girl is the one with the street smarts. That seemed a bit racist to me, and I wasn't sure how they dealt with it in the original, because I knew that there was a black Ghostbuster in the original. I didn't really understand, like, the origin of it because I hadn't seen the original yet. And so when I first saw the new one, I thought that was a bit racist, and then I watched the original, and the original is a bit racist. And yeah, they very easily could have changed it for the new one and made it different, but I feel like instead of it being a situation where they're just perpetuating the racist stereotypes. I think they were just using it as a callback to the original. I mean, it was still problematic, but I think it was justified almost in the context of the original and how they drew a lot of parallels. Because parallels and references and Easter eggs and little throwbacks to the original are scattered throughout this film. Again, I don't think this is a spoiler, because every time I've mentioned to people who haven't seen the film that I have seen the film, this is something that they bring up, and I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge, but pretty much everyone from the original film is in the new film. With the exception of Rick Moranis, for some reason he's not in it, and Harold Ramis also isn't in it because he's dead, but there is still a reference to him in the film. There's also the firehouse that they work in the original features in this film. And I'm not gonna spoil all of the Easter eggs, I'm not gonna go through a list and tell you what they all are, but I like that there are so many references to the original because it adds a little, like almost like a fun element to it, like you're almost playing a game. If you've seen the original and you're watching the new one and you're like, oh yeah, that's a reference, it's like you're looking out for them and trying to spot them. But ultimately it does this and it puts so many in, but it never feels like they're trying to use the fame of the original to make this one seem better. Like they're putting in a lot of references, a lot of Easter eggs, they're including a lot of the original cast members, but it never feels like they're saying this is the original or it's a sequel. It doesn't feel like that. It just feels like they're giving little nods to the source material. I've heard a lot of people recently complaining that this film isn't very good for fans of the originals. I mean, I've heard a lot of people who are very die-hard fans of the original films say that they loved it, but for the most part the people who hate this film are people who love the original films. And it's for a number of reasons, like they don't like that it's women, which is just sexist, or they didn't feel like it needed to be rebooted, you know, they thought that it was fine as it was, and that's what you always get whenever a franchise is rebooted. You'll have fans of the original saying that it didn't need to be rebooted, but ultimately, why not? Ghostbusters was as good a franchise as any to reboot, and I think it was a pretty good choice because I really like this film. A lot of the complaints from original film fans have been that it feels like it's not catering to them, like they're just disregarding fans of the original and just trying to bring it into a new audience. And that's true. Like the fans of the original and people who love the originals without any questions asked are not the target audience of this film. If there is a franchise that is problematic, and the Ghostbusters franchise, especially the originals, is problematic. Like, it's slightly racist, it comes across as slightly sexist, all of this kind of stuff. If you have a slightly problematic franchise and you decide to bring a new twist to it, make a new version, try and eliminate some of the problematic elements, fans of the original who love it despite all of the problematic elements are not going to be the target audience of this film. The target audience are going to be people who are interested in watching a version of it that has fewer problematic elements and more elements that they feel like they can enjoy. For example, women are more likely to enjoy this new one, not just because it's got women in it, but because they've made it less of a misogynistic film. Also, the target audience of this film, I'm pretty sure, is young girls. Young girls who now feel like they can grow up to be cool and fun, just like boys watching the original felt like they could grow up to be cool and fun. Ultimately, I actually loved it even more the second time I saw it, because the first time I saw it in my grandparents' hometown in kind of a small, not very amazing cinema, and then the second time I saw it in the city closest to the town where I live, and it was a huge cinema, even better film experience, honestly. But just in general, I thought it was better than I thought it was the first time I watched it. Having the context of the original going into the second viewing of the film made me appreciate it more, made me enjoy it even more. Which isn't me saying it as a die-hard fan of the original, because the original is good. It's okay, you know, it's an enjoyable film, I would rewatch it. I'm saying it just as someone who has seen both versions. I am a massive fan of the new one, holy shit. Going to see it again tomorrow actually with some people. One person who I'm quite good friends with, someone else who I haven't seen in about 5 years who I bumped into at Pride the other day, and some of her friends. None of them had seen it except for the person who is my close friend, who's the person I went to see it with the second time I saw it. None of them had seen it, and so I said, well, we should all go and see it together. And so yeah, I'm seeing it for a third time tomorrow. It's that good. I could watch this so many times. I would put so much of my money into seeing this film. I'm not going to give it like a star rating out of 5 or anything like I did with my old reviews, because those were bad. Those were not good reviews. And I'm not going to say that this is better or worse than the original, and I'm not going to try and compare the two, because ultimately they're the same franchise, but they're separate films. I personally enjoy the new one more, but I'm not going to say whether one is objectively better than the other or not. That's up to the people who are watching it and deciding for themselves. What I will say is that this is a very, very funny film. The 2016 Ghostbusters is a very, very, very funny film. It's extremely enjoyable. All of the characters have great comedy, great humour, great chemistry with each other, which is always important. The villain is good. Without being amazing and without being terrible, the villain is just kind of there. And the finale is amazing. The finale is a really, 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 really good finale. Kate McKinnon's character, Gillian Holtzman, is, for one, in my opinion, the best character in the film. Hands down, she is incredible. Spoiler alert, not really, because it's in the trailers, but she has a full scene of the fight scene dedicated to her just wrecking shit. So yeah, definitely go and see this film. If you want to wait until it's on Netflix or until you can just buy it on DVD, then fine, that's a good idea, because watching it is a good idea regardless of how. But you should pay money to see this at the cinema if you can afford to. If you can't, then obviously don't worry about it. But if you have the money to go and see this multiple times, like I don't really have the money to go and see this multiple times, I need money for rent. And yet I'm still going to see this for a third time tomorrow, and I'm going to see it at least 2 more times after that, honestly. Go and see this film. Oh man. I'm going to leave it at that.